Welcome to 7.5, how do you solve quadratic equations using square roots. These are the fun ones, guys. This is when you don't have to graph, you can just go to the equation. A couple things that we need to get straight first. If x squared equals a, then x equals plus or minus square root of a. And I think if I plug in a number, you'll probably see this better. But if x squared equals, say, 4, then you know that x has to equal plus or minus 2, because positive 2 times positive 2 is 4, or negative 2 times negative 2 is 4. So anytime you take the root of an x or an unknown and you create it to equal x, then you need to make sure and put this plus or minus in on the square root side that you get. Okay? A lot of times when kids square root, they'll square root this side and they forget that plus or minus. So that's why I bring that up. Product property of radicals. This is an important one. A and B are non-negative, so they could be 0 or any positive number. If they're being multiplied under here, it's equal to radical A times radical B. They can be separated. Now, if you've been in my Algebra 1 class, I talked about radicals like prisms. You know that you can pull them apart that way, that they can be in separated prisms too. Okay, quotient property of radicals. A is non-negative, B has to be positive. Explain to me why. Why can't B just be non-negative? Why does it have to be a positive number? Okay, anyway, back to the property. A radical of a fraction can be separated into separate radicals. Radical A over radical B. I really do want you to come in and explain that. Does 0 have a square root? 0 is a really unusual number. It is its square root. It's only got one square root, and 0 is its own square root. It's not a positive or a negative, it's just 0. Okay, do negative numbers have any square roots? Can you get 2 times 2 to equal that? Or negative 2 times negative 2 to equal that? They can't have the square roots because these need to be identical in order to be squared. And we've got a negative there. There is a way around that in Algebra 2, but for right now, just remember, it's going to be no real solutions if you end up with that. Okay, so now I just want to practice simplifying. Plus or minus radical, I don't know if you can see this well, 5 over 4 equals, go back to your property, we just said that you could do. You can go radical 5 over radical 4. And now radical 4 simplifies to 2 times 2, square root of radical 4 is 2. Radical 5 doesn't simplify, so we've got a plus or a minus there. Okay? Never ever end up with a radical on the bottom of a fraction. You've got to be able to take care of that. Okay, let's solve some problems. Let's have some fun. Draw the line. Circle your creepy dude. Trying to get him alone, go up the PIMDAs. What's being added or subtracted to your creepy dude? It's being subtracted, it's a 7, you want to add, so plus 7 plus 7. That'll cancel out, we get 2x squared equals 16. Now we're up one rung on our ladder here, climbing up. Multiply or divide, it's being multiplied, so we divide. So we get x squared equals 8. Now we're clear up to the square. How do we get rid of the square? You take the square root and you'll get your x. Square root of 8. Hopefully you remember that. You can split that apart, so we have 4 times 2. 4 is a perfect square. You could do it from our property like that. Radical 4 is a perfect square, so that would be 2. Radical 2. Don't forget your plus or minus there, like I almost did. Okay? Now some of you learned from my other class that you can take that 8 and break it down. 2 times 2 times 2. And if it's a square root, it takes 2 to get 1 out. So that's how you would get the 2 out and leave 2 in. That's fine to do it that way too. Okay. Another problem here, I want to switch pins just for variety. Okay, hopefully you can see this. It's negative 3 x minus 6 squared plus 19 equals 7. First thing we'd do, going up the PIMDAs, we want to subtract 19 because that's what's being added or subtracted to this x. Now, you might say, but negative 6 is being subtracted. It's inside parentheses. That's clear at the top. Okay? You're going to hold that until you're all done clearing around it, just like you did on absolute value, how you cleared around first. So, minus 19, that cancels. We have negative 3, x minus 6 squared equals negative 12. Now we're done with add subtract. 3 is being multiplied, so we divide by negative 3. Divide by negative 3. That'll cancel. We get x minus 6 squared equals 4. Now, before you can go inside the parentheses, you've got to take care of that square. So take the square root of it to cancel that. This side would be plus or minus square root. So at this point, we need to separate because x minus 6 equals a negative 2, or x minus 6 equals a positive 2. Looks very similar to your absolute value if you remember right. So now we add 6 to each side. We see that x equals 4. Add 6 to each side, and we see that x equals 8. Now one thing I should have mentioned previously, you should be able to plug these values in and create a true problem. So 4 minus 6 is negative 2. Negative 2 squared is 4. 4 times negative 3 is negative 12. Negative 12 plus 19 is 7. 8 minus 6 is 2. 2 squared is 4. 4 times negative 3 is negative 12 plus 19 is 7. Okay, now we're to a real world problem. There's this kid hanging over a balcony. He's got his keys in his hand, and the balcony's 10 feet up. He drops the keys. Actually, I should say his hand's 10 feet up to make this accurate, because it says the keys drop from 10 feet. The equation they give us is this. They want to know how many seconds was it till his friend caught him. His friend caught him at 4 feet. Obviously, this is not to scale. His friend looks like a midget and it's about 2 feet, but that's not true. Okay? So, why did they have the 4 feet in there? Hopefully you all said it's the height. 4 equals negative 16t squared plus 10. Circle our creepy dude. Want to get him alone? Going up the PIMDAs would subtract 10 from each side. We get a negative 6 equals negative 16t squared. Divide by negative 16. 2 negatives cancel. We can reduce that to 3/8. 3/8 is about 0.375 equals t squared. Take the square root of t, square root of this. That would come out to be about 0.6. Yeah, 0.6 equals t. Now you might be saying, yeah, that should be a plus or minus. Theoretically, yes, but because we're talking time, no, it has to be a positive 6, because that's in seconds. 0.6 seconds. You wouldn't have a negative for time. See you tomorrow in class.